Hello and welcome to Asian Voices. I'm your host, Kathleen Choi. On today's show, we'll meet an LA-based artist originally from South Korea whose thought-provoking works often represent Asian post-cultural society and traditions. Then we meet with a rising young and talented filmmaker who shares her passion for musical theater and films with us. Later, we visit a house in Riverside, once owned by a Japanese immigrant family that played a key role in changing early California land ownership laws. Those stories and more coming up next on Asian Voices. Originally from Seoul, Korea, visual artist Ken Gonmin found himself in Los Angeles after receiving a master's in fine arts in San Francisco. Our partners at LA Art Documents caught up with Min at his studio to learn more about his artistic practice that combines traditional and contemporary elements in his work, using a variety of media and techniques that often represent everyday life seen in very innovative ways.
My name is Ken Gonmin. I'm an artist. We are in my studio, Koreatown, Los Angeles. I studied painting and art history in South Korea, and I fled to San Francisco in 2001, and I studied illustration in Academy of Art in San Francisco. So I study commercial art in my grad school. So after grad school, I got a job in Lucasfilm, and I worked in Star Wars for 10 years. And then I came down to Los Angeles and I became a full-time artist. I went to school in South Korea, so they have a very rigorous educational system. So I started very young. It's only focused on very detailed, the figurative paintings, and it's a blessing, but it's also a curse. So your thought process is very contained that small boxes, and I always wanted to get out of that boxes. So probably my early painting was very figurative, very detailed, trying to still keep that in my background and also introduce something, let's say, something gestural expression on top of that. And I think that's a kind of strong combination to bring something in life. When I renovate this studio, I met a lot of people, workers and collectors. And I got inspired from their story and their material. they share their experience and their history behind it. So I got inspired by that. And one of the artists who passed away in Glendale, and she was a doll maker, and she left behind lots of crystal beads and fabrics. So I picked them up, and I am still using that. So I feel like that her experience was handed down to me and then to my painting. It's not only just one person or one experience. I sometimes, collaging and just juxtapose and here and there and just to make a huge kind of monstrous figure. You can see it from the back. That's a depiction from the conversation from the guy I met from the Gold Gym Hollywood. He's like huge, and then he eat like protein every time. Probably he's preparing auditioning or something. So, he was a very it's like very masculine, but it's also very feminine. So I stitched gathered the conversation and material and just create that painting. I kind of depict everyday life maybe, and then more focus on, the small local people, event, conversation. And also I try to keep the distance from the painting and myself. So sometimes it just paint by itself and it find its own way by itself. I'm a big fan of not talking about work, because I'm a believer of the work has to be talk by themselves.
Now, let's meet with Mallorie Ortega, who is quickly rising in the film world as a writer, director, and producer. Best known for her musical feature film, The Girl Who Left Home. Her film won the Audience Award at CamFest Forward and the Emerging Filmmaker Award at the Los Angeles Asian Pacific Film Festival. Mallory talks with us about her process of creating stories, her love for musicals, and shares some of her insights with aspiring filmmakers about what is needed to succeed as a filmmaker today.
I'm Mallorie Ortega. I was born in San Diego, but I was raised in Maryland, and ever since I was little, like 6 or 7, I always knew that I wanted to be a filmmaker. Really, I wanted to be on stage and watching the Oscars and seeing all these people crying and dancing so beautifully, and being so grateful for working with all these people. I just felt like, wow, what is that? What is it about that thing that makes them really feel this way? And I think getting into the creative industry, whether it was theater or drawing, filming, it felt like such a collaborative experience that you get from other people, just going towards the same goal and seeing what you made. It's very exciting, and I finally understood that and was hungry for more of those experiences. It has been a blessing, really, with the opportunities that have come my way. I think me understanding and knowing that this was something I wanted to do and believing in myself that I could do it really propelled me into my career, regardless of being a woman or not, or being Asian or not. But I think because of my because I really wanted it, I am here at the perfect time and place to be able to represent my culture and represent, diversity and women voices. And I think it's important to continue that and be a champion for those voices who aren't heard. Well, when I was in grad school, I had The Girl Who Left Home as a feature script, and I wanted to have the financial support of like a studio or another production company to help make the movie, and I had never made a feature film before by myself. I made short films. And so the scale of it was just like, I don't know how to do that. But when I was pitching and sharing my ideas to other production companies, producers, it was just, they're like, okay, like, keep in touch, let us know when it happens type of thing, instead of like, I want to make this. It's a big risk to take on a first-time feature director, a Filipino story, a musical, they're huge risks. And so I get it. But for me, I was like, I don't want to wait for my opportunity. Like, I know that this message, this story needs to be told. This is my story. And it's universal. It's not just for Filipinos. And I was like, I know how to make a movie. So let me find some people who know how to make a feature film, who are up to the task to learn, and just to like make art, right? And so that's when I had to make my own production company. That was my deciding factor. If we don't do it ourselves, then no one else will do it.
I'm so sorry for your loss.
I'm working at the restaurant tomorrow.
I'm sorry, Christine. I hate to do this.
If we don't give him a month and a half of rent, it's over.
There's a saying in the Philippines, where there's life, there still lies hope.
Now maybe this is what I'm supposed to do. Fulfill my parents' legacy.
Christine, no. It's always been your dream to be on stage. You can't just let that go.
And now, are you going to stay?
The Girl Who Left Home is about a woman who is at the height of her theater career. She breaks through and lands a lead role of a theater production. But then she finds out that her father has suddenly passed away, and she has to go back home and is left with all of the broken bridges that she left behind, and has to decide whether to save her parents' restaurant or continue living on her dream path.
I won't stop believing that I can win. Street lights, people don't know where to begin.
I love musicals. I think that there's something really special about being able to really get into the mindset of characters and hear what they want to say but can't. We need more Asian American and female voices out there. So if you feel like you have a story to tell it. Everyone is different. No one has the same experience. If some people might say, oh, that's been done before and we've heard that before, but it's not true. Everyone, that's why we are artists. We all see the world differently, and there shouldn't be anyone putting you down for something that you want to create. Nothing will be perfect the first time, second time, third time around. You continue to make these stories and grow from them and learn more and challenge yourself. And, again, no one will make it happen other than you. So keep fighting that fight, keep making things happen, and find those people who will really, truly support you. Don't work with people because of accolades or, whatever. Find the people that truly believe in your story, believe in you, want to see you grow, and don't take no for an answer. If someone says no to you, find someone who will say yes. Keep going, keep working on yourself until you get those yeses. Because if you don't, then nothing will happen. We won't have more stories about our cultures. And just believe in yourself. Believe you can do it. You can do it. I'm Mallorie Ortega. This is my voice.
You have probably never heard of the Haradas, a Japanese-American family that immigrated to Riverside, California in the early 1900s. But their ensuing landmark case surrounding the right for immigrants to own property in California became part of not only our state's history, but our nation's history as well. Let's meet with those who are now dedicating themselves to preserving this home's heritage and national landmark status.
The story of the house is compelling. Jukichi and Ken Harada, who were Japanese immigrants, were sued by the state of California under the 1913 Alien Land Law. They were sued in 1916 in an attempt to force them out of a home that the family had recently purchased legally.
The neighbors got together and offered to buy the home for more than what my grandparents had paid for it. And my grandfather said, "I won't sell. You can murder me. You can throw me into the sea, and I won't sell." He was taken to court and was actually criminally prosecuted in Riverside Superior Court. However, in 1918, Judge Hugh Craig in Superior Court upheld the 14th Amendment.
It was a moment when the system worked as it should for an immigrant, and Harada House itself is the physical embodiment of an event that was ultimately triumphant for these Japanese immigrants. But this launched a long struggle for Asian racial justice. It would take decades.
History made its mark on my family. Nearly a quarter of a century later, Japanese and Japanese Americans were forcibly removed from the West Coast, and that included my family. My grandparents and my parents and their siblings were moved out of California.
In the spring of 1942, the Harada's teenage son Harold scrawled a simple, poignant message on the wall upstairs that is still readable today, recording his family's removal to the internment camps. He wrote, "Evacuated on May 23rd, 1942, Saturday, 7 a.m. Harold Harada's parents died in the internment camps, and Harold Harada went on to serve in Europe as a part of the 442nd Infantry Regiment of American soldiers of Japanese ancestry.
My Auntie Sumi continued to live in the house until she was about 90 years old. Auntie Sumi kept all kinds of things. There's all kinds of letters which actually document what happened to people during incarceration. There are many, many letters between Auntie Sumi and Jess Stebler, the man who took care of the house during the war. After my Auntie Sumi passed away, we came across these trunks and we opened them up, and inside was this obi, this Japanese sash that was, I don't know, at least 5 feet long or so, and it was totally embroidered, and it looked like it was some sort of poetry. When Brenda and I showed it to a person knowledgeable in Japanese art, she just kind of stepped back and she took this breath and she goes, "Oh my goodness, your family came from more wealthy means." We had heard these stories about my grandmother being from a samurai family, and we just kind of thought that was not true, and this sort of family fable. But it turns out that it was true.
For us, it's time that Harada House be open to the public. The Museum of Riverside seeks to complete a $5.2 million campaign for its rehabilitation so that we may open the house to the public as a site for dialogue on timely issues of racial justice, civil rights, the notion of home, diversity, immigration, and similar topics. The judicial decision in 1918 was the first step to repeal racially restrictive state laws that were aimed at Asian Americans. It was a moment when the system worked as it should for an immigrant, and Harada House itself is the physical embodiment of an event that was ultimately triumphant for these Japanese immigrants.
This program was made possible in part by the California Arts Council, advancing California through the arts and creativity. Team Metro Real Estate, helping families with real estate investments in San Diego since 1990. Contact us today for your free in-home market valuation. Promote your organization or event online today on Asian Pacific Community Connection Business Directory website. Asian Voices was brought to you by Asian Culture and Media Alliance, empowering our Asian and Pacific Islander communities through media arts since 2013.
Please support the only television program
that creates a voice of real change.
Asian Voices.
Asian Voices.
Asian Voices.
Asian Voices.
Asian Voices.
Asian Voices.
This is our voice.
Well, that's all the time we have for today's show. But be sure to check out other Asian Voices stories on our YouTube channel and follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Before we go, I'll leave you with today's music video by a talented music artist. I'm Kathleen Choi, and I'll see you next time on Asian Voices. Take care, everyone.
Do you want this one or this one?
See that one.
Awesome.
Thank you. Hey.
Okay, so we've got to do the Seed and Spark video. Do you know what you're going to say?
Yes.
Oh, it's a musical.
And?
And it's about a Filipino American girl.
And?
And she made a rift in her family to chase her dream and be free. A year gone, her father passes away. She goes home for her father's wake, forced to follow in her mother's make. Their family business goes down, down. She must help her mom get it off the ground. Her guilt then starts to take a hold. She does as she's always told. Old customs, old rules keep her caged. She yearns for something more than that. She wonders where her heart is at. Is it at home with her mother or on stage? Will her mom make her stay? Or will she fly so far away? Will she ever feel completely whole? Or will she ignore her role? Show the world something new, something that they never knew. The screen will never show us